Hello everyone and welcome to the world's easiest Figma Community crash course. In this video we're going to take the giant place that is Figma Community and talk about all of its elements, everything you can get from Figma Community, every single use case you'd use Figma Community for, and it's just an incredible resource in the long term. So let's just get started. Figma Community is the one single place with access to every single kind of Figma file. What makes it interesting is that every single kind of Figma file has pre-built templates, meaning these templates have already been built by other people and these people have made these templates public, meaning that anyone can now use these templates for whatever use case they see fit. And sometimes it's a good idea to make your own things with Figma, and sometimes it just makes sense to go look at what other people have done and either take some inspiration from that or reuse it or figure out the things that you don't know, maybe learn something from it. Let's just talk about all of the different things it offers. Every single way I use Figma Community, every single way you can use Figma Community. So the very first thing that you see as soon as you get started is the Save tab, and this is going to have things if you already saved them. If you haven't yet saved anything, it probably is going to be empty. Let's just talk about design resources first. Figma design files are the simplest, most normal version of Figma where you can design whatever UI you're working on, and this is an extension of the design resources. So people have taken Figma design files and they've kind of expanded on that. So you have various kinds of resources grouped together. Sometimes you have UI kits, then there are a bunch of UI kits present already inside of Figma Community. Let's just take one of these UI kits because obviously there are a bunch of UI kits and talk about what a UI kit is. Let's just open one in Figma. A UI kit is a collection of a bunch of different reusable resources, meaning small little components or elements which have been used in this specific UI. Wow, I picked a Chinese one and I'm having a really hard time reading anything. I think we should get a different one. This looks good too. Alright, so let's just talk about what a Figma UI kit is. A UI kit is a collection of different Figma components which you can reuse, you can take inspiration from, and it just saves you a lot of time in the long run. So this specific UI kit has 50 vertical components, 50 horizontal components, and a couple of local components. Let's just go through them one by one. Sometimes you have a simple image, a headline, and a little bit of text, and this is a perfect component to reuse in such cases. So you can kind of duplicate this component, get it out, put it inside of your design, and you can paste this in a different file as well. Go over here, either change this to a different color or just get a different image entirely. Change this image's fill to crop, press shift and scale this image up. I can also add a color in the background if I like. Let's just put a pink in the background. You know what, I'm just going to get this one. And now you can change whatever title you'd want to give this bear. Let's call him Mr. Bear and add a little description of this client or something. And this is a really simple use case of where you'd repetitively use something that looks like this. Again, these components are also highly customizable, so you can kind of change around your fonts. If the font I'm using is completely different, I can change it. If I want, I can change the font sizes as well. Most things that you would expect to be changeable are already changeable, and this just gives you a really nice starting point to make your UI designs, make them quicker, make them easier. And these are some of the most simple, most repetitive components you see pop over and over in almost all UIs. So you have a chart, you have a card, you have a headline, you have a news block, and this is just the perfect UI kit to make any basic news site, you guys. And you can actually do a lot with these components once you start to realize how much control you have over each of these elements. So let's just open one of these up. Some of these are locked and you kind of have to open the locks. People lock these so they don't fly in all sorts of random directions, but once you start using something, you can obviously open the lock. Always kind of copy and paste these because sometimes you'll mess this up and you'll want to go back to that version, and that just makes your job a whole lot easier. You can realize how much power you have with a UI kit once you start using it. So for example, I can change the color of my button, I can change the color of its outline, I can even give this the same color as the outline, or I can make the outline a little bit different. I can change all of the fonts. So let's just do this one, and now we are basically changing everything about this font. Let's just make the font size a little bit larger, let this fit the entirety of the line, reduce the line height. You can even change the spacing that's between these elements, change the font families once again, and check it out. This is such a nice way of just quickly getting what you want inside of Figma. These components just make your life so much easier. You can put them wherever you want. This version looks so much different from the version we started with, which I believe was this one, and it just gives you a lot of accessibility and control over what you're doing. But in the course of your entire UI design journey, you will find yourself making and using these components over and over again, and it kind of makes makes sense beyond a certain point to just get one of these and change whatever you're wanting to change, especially if you're on the go, especially if you want to get things done quickly. This is definitely an incredible UI design kit. You also have 50 horizontal ones, so let's just see what that is about. These are much thinner, much flatter, and you can add these for mobiles because you have a lot of area restriction inside of mobiles. You want to make things smaller, fit thinner spaces, and it just makes sense to have one of these inside of your mobile files. And this is kind of similar to what we just saw, except that this is kind of smaller and fits smaller spaces inside of your UI, but at the end of the day, the use case is entirely the same. You also have a couple of local components, meaning these are the little components that have been used over and over again inside of all of these. So not only are these components reusable, not only can you use all of these components inside of your other websites, these components internally too have a couple of elements that have been reused over and over again. So no matter which component you go to, the headline is exactly the same or almost similar. The subheading is almost same. The description is also exactly the same, and you have the button which is exactly the same every single place. Local components are the components inside of this file which are exactly the same, have been used over and over again, and you can kind of change these as well if you'd want only a single chart, only a single button, only a little bit of text, and you're trying to make something from the ground up using these building blocks as opposed to these pre-built building blocks. And again, people forget how much control you have, but when you realize you have control over everything and these are just good starting points, UI kits become a lifesaver when it comes to timing and UI design. People say UI design takes a lot of time. It really doesn't if you know the right hacks, and I think UI kits go a long way in giving you those hacks. And there are genuinely so many UI kits. Some of these UI kits are from nice big brands like macOS and Google Maps, you guys, because these brands too use UI design. And let's just go to one of these and see what I'm talking about. And I think when it comes to licensing and use cases, Apple is just doing a wonderful job, because as soon as you click on one of these, if you want to see the actual resources and the UI kits Apple is using, Apple gives you the best, most thorough licensing agreement for all Apple design resources. Maybe it's not the best thing if you are a designer, but it actually does save everyone a lot of trouble. These Apple design resources are to be solely used for creating mockups or user interfaces, software products for Apple's OS. If you enter into this on behalf of a company, you represent legal authority to bind your organization to the terms of this license, and then it just goes on to a lot of permitted and not permitted use cases. And I think complying with these, especially if someone else is building the UI kit, especially a giant like Apple or Spotify, is a good idea. One of the elements that I really did become a fan of are Shad CDN's UI kit. This is, if you are a programmer, if you've worked with Shad CDN, this is extremely helpful because it goes as a help file to your already Shad CDN based projects, and it's just a really concise way of getting access to everything that the user is working with. And then you have all of the icons from the Shad CDN library. Again, there is a bunch of different UI kits, not just UI design components. Sometimes you have UI kits for an entire dashboard system. For example, this one right here. These are the basic foundational colors and shades and fonts and spacings that they've been using for the dashboard. They also have the icons and shadows they've used everywhere. Very clear foundation. And then you have all of your components. They do have a grid which looks kind of weird, but you can get rid of the grid. I don't like the component grid. I'm just getting rid of it. Let's just remove the component grid entirely. Sometimes it makes sense to have a grid, sometimes it doesn't. And check it out. They've given us a bunch of really nice buttons and labels of different states, controls and sliders and tabs and list items. Every single thing would now contribute really well to building a dashboard. They've also built a couple of example dashboards from these components. Check it out, such a clean UI, because when you're using products that are extremely streamlined, extremely clean, and follow the exact same design system, whatever result you come up with is going to be really clean and really simple and belong to the same family visibly as a result of it. You can also get access to icons and mockups and components and iPhone based UI kits. There's also a bunch of wireframes you can access. This is one of my favorite places ever because these let you wireframe inside of Figma without getting a drawing pad out and just scribbling away. These are some basic examples of pricing and about us and basic little sites. These are the icons they've used repetitively, and you also have components. So these are the basic components that you would need for wireframing. I feel like at some point we could really make or use one of these. This would be so much fun, you guys. This is just a wonderful place to get started creating your very own wireframes. You have a really good example place to get started, and just this just seems like an incredible place to start. You also have social media templates, cards and invites, mobile app templates, resume templates, portfolio templates, icons, illustrations, shapes and colors. Illustrations are actually a wonderful place if you're trying to get a simple prototype going. Having the right illustration in your project is just such a wonderful thing. You are free to use this specific library for commercial purposes as well, which is something I'm always looking for. And you can actually change these vectors and their shapes and their colors, and this is just such a wonderful starting point for the entirety of this UI, you guys. This is genuinely really pretty, even as something you could plug and play into your own UI. Figma Make is the newest addition to Figma, and it actually auto-generates things using code, whatever it is that you request. People have built incredible things across Figma Make, and you can actually remix them to get started. Let's try one of these. This is Figma Craft, make your own 3D game, and you actually are able to see everything that happens when people try to use Figma Make to generate stuff. And I actually have tried Figma Make too. It's kind of fun. You can check out the complete Figma Make crash course, but also you kind of get a little bit of an access into what it looks like to be making one of these projects. The author literally goes, please do not avoid answering which issues do you see that cause it. Briefly in plain terms, write about all of them. Know how the inventory system works in plain terms. Analyze the whole inventory system, please. This is kind of funny. Why might it be invalid? I think Figma is trying really hard to get AI to write code that makes incredible applications happen on the internet, but programming is complicated, and this is coming from a programmer, so you kind of get why the person who's using this file would literally go, I give up in the middle of these projects. Again, Figma Make is definitely not in a state right now where I would push it into production because of just how much of a vendor lock-in and restriction you go to when you start using it. Learning to code is still the right way right now, because these systems aren't as reliable as you might imagine. They have a lot of branding behind them. Of course, it's new technology, and I'm going to be invested in new technologies, advancements every day of my life, but this isn't just at a place stable enough where I'd use it for something commercial. I'd ask you to use it for something permanent. It just breaks a lot, and I don't want that in any projects that I'm working with that are already launched. Let's try these. You can press shift to run. I have no idea what's going on anymore. This is a Minecraft-like thing, but also I don't know what is going on. Can we get out of this? I don't think we can. This is horrible. Wow. Did I jump off? I'm really bad at gaming. People might think I'm not, but I am actually horrible at the gaming world. Wow. This is so bad. Why is this not? I don't think it actually. Wow. Am I? See, now one of two things is happening. Either I'm a really bad gamer or I fell down. Wow. You need to explore the world to solve the puzzle. Why don't arrow keys work? I have no idea anymore. We're trying. We don't have it all, but we're trying. Wow. How difficult is this going to be? I don't even think this is normal like Minecraft. I am completely clueless now. Alright, wonderful invention, but I need help. Or this project does. I have no idea. The creator literally said I give up, so not a lot of hope. Still no idea how this works, but it is a wonderful little thing that you might want to see. Again, a bunch of really wonderful things to try. Just for fun, apps, dashboards, games, interactions, a bunch of projects that would be really fun to get started. Some of these are actually brilliant games. Let's try one of these once more. Oh no, another fortune cookie. Again, a cool little experiment, but nothing too huge. To get started, it does have a bunch of wonderful plugins and widgets as well. If you're looking for cool plugins and widgets, I would definitely recommend trying one of these. If you're looking for the top 5 plugins you can't miss out on, check out this video linked right here at the top on my top 5 Figma plugins of all time. There are a bunch of presentation templates as well, which is actually a fun thing to get started with. If you're bored of the exact same presentations over and over again, these are just a wonderful new place to get started. You have a bunch of whiteboarding templates as well, which help you start with ideas. Fun and games, team meetings, Jeopardy. Again, a bunch of really cool little games when you're whiteboarding. And finally, Figma sites, websites. Let's just check out one of these sites. Use templates, fresh recipe blog, continue to sites. Wow, check it out. So they've basically, don't be afraid of the red lines. They're just grids. That isn't what the actual UI looks like. You just need to get rid of the layout grid. These are the basic components that they've used. These are the color palettes. These are the images. These are the links beneath the images. This is the about section, TikTok and Instagram linked. These are all of the different icons and components that they've used over and over again. If this looks scary, don't be afraid. This is just a layout guide. Again, this is what it's going to look like on desktop. This is what it's going to look like on tablets. And again, this is a very simple blog site for food items. I absolutely love all of the different projects and components and things it can provide you with. You can take a lot of inspiration, especially if you're just looking to make something that's your own. If you're making a resume, if you're making a project. Figma Community is the one-stop shop to see what other people are doing, what's something new that you couldn't do before that you can learn from, take inspiration, build your own things. I would be very, very careful with the licensing on these. Sometimes it's just not for commercial use and you have to comply with whatever is being said over there as well. But in any case, this is a wonderful platform to get learning, get started. This is one of the most wonderful one-stop shop Figma related, Figma only places for UI UX designers. I hope you liked what we talked about in this video. I hope you like Figma Community. I hope you get started. I hope this video took away some of the endless fear that exists around Figma Community. Beginners won't want to jump into it directly because it just seems like a huge place, and it is a huge place. So I hope this video took away some of the jargon from this place, and I hope this lets you get started with the wonderful thing that is Figma Community, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, like this video, leave a comment on what you're using Figma Community for, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, have a great designing day. That was a new goodbye greeting. Must take note of that.